Welcome to the Femme Fatal, a true crime podcast with an astrology twist. I'm your host, Stacey Dotson. Each week, I'll be joined by a guest host because this Femme Fatale prefers not to work alone. Good morning, Kay. Thanks for joining me on the Femme Fatal again.
Well, good morning, Stacey. Great to be here.
How are you?
I'm good. We don't usually record in the morning, so I'm still waking up.
I don't have my glass of wine that I usually like to have when I record.
It's a little early.
Little early. Little bit. Well, it's Sunday, you know.
It's Sunday. Well, that's true. The blood of Christ.
Yeah,
little red
it's
wine.
true.
Sorry to be so sacrilegious.
Well, today we're going to chat about Helen Hardin Moore. I texted you about her because I was watching old episodes of Autopsy to familiarize myself with another subject of a podcast. And the story came on and I had never heard it before. And of course, it's Texas, so that was intriguing. So I texted you and I was like, hey, let's take a look at this. And it turns out that she had been in the news recently because she was up for parole and denied. So very timely.
Yes, it happened in April. April was her parole hearing. That was her first parole hearing after 30 years in prison.
Yeah.
Let's get to why she was in prison.
Yes.
So Helen Hardin, she later became Helen Moore. She was born in 1954 in Brown County, Texas. And Brown County is about an hour and a half west of Fort Worth. So this is like super cattle country.
Right.
What you think of typical Texas. If you're in England and you've never been to Texas, this is what you would think of as Texas, cattle country. So she was raised on a ranch. She raised horses. She rode horses. She was a barrel racer. As a teenager, she was a rodeo queen. She was into the ranch lifestyle, right? Right out of high school. 18 years old, she gets married. Very short-lived. She gets married a second time very soon thereafter.
Yeah.
Also short-lived. She has 2 kids by the time these 2 marriages are over. And so it's the late 70s. She's a single mother of 2. She worked at a livestock company for auctioneers where they're selling cattle.
Yeah.
And in 1979, at the age of 24, she meets Terry Moore. And he treated her kids like his own. They fell in love. It was wonderful. And they got married and he owned a landscape business. She worked in the business. All was happy. But in 1990, Terry was diagnosed with terminal melanoma cancer. And so she was his caregiver. And they sent him home to be cared for by her. And she was taught how to administer the morphine to him.
Okay.
So that he wasn't in so much pain.
So he was terminal, you said?
He was terminal. Mm-hmm. So she did everything she could to keep him comfortable, including administering his morphine. But as is with terminal cancer, he died in November of 1990. And they had 2 kids. So she now has 4 children and she is single. So she's 36 years old, 4 kids, no job, because when Terry got sick, he couldn't manage his business anymore. So he let the business go. Now she has no income. So she did odd jobs, yard work, and she helped with people's cattle. It's now 1991, a year later after Terry has died, and Casey Elliott is a local cowboy, and he knocks on her door in the middle of the day to ask if he could use her bathroom. He's working on a ranch next door.
Oh, okay.
The well had gone out for some reason. So he's like, I need to use the bathroom. So he knocks on her door. And being small cattle country, she's like, sure, come on in, Casey.
Do you want some coffee? No.
That's probably how it went because the 2 hit it off. He kept coming around for a couple of weeks every day, even after the well had been fixed.
Uh-huh.
They hit it off. They had a lot in common. They loved the rodeo and cattle and horses. So they started dating and then eventually he moved in. She's 13 years older than him. So at the time, she's 36, he's 23.
Wow.
Yeah. They lived in this little town called Newcastle in Young County. And that's over 100 miles northwest of Fort Worth. Current population of Newcastle is 526 people. It's very small.
What's the cow population? Like 10,000?
More than 526, I would bet. They ride horses together. They take kids to the rodeo. The kids showed goats at the rodeo and steers and horses. And he basically adopted her kids, but not legally.
Yeah.
He taught the kids how to ride and shoot and raise animals. So all is happy.
Yeah.
But he also works as an 18-wheel truck driver. He works for a cattle hauling business.
Okay.
He would be on the road sometimes for like 5 days at a time, taking cattle to and fro. And Helen stayed home looking after the kids and their small herd of animals they have a little ranch in Newcastle. So fast forward 5 years. So they've been in this relationship for 5 years. And on January 20th, 1996, Casey's dad calls the sheriff in Young County, Texas, to report Casey missing. He hadn't seen or heard from him for 5 days, which would have been normal if he was on the road, but his rig was parked in the trucking company's lot. So he sees his rig there. He can't find his son. He's nowhere to be found. So the Young County Sheriff's Office contacts Helen after this report is filed. The next day, it's January 21st. And they go over to Aunt Helen's house and they're like, hey, we're looking for Casey. And she was very cooperative. She said she didn't have any idea where he was. She said the reason he left was the relationship had deteriorated. They had been having cash flow problems. They were having problems making the rent along with paying other bills. Of course, that leads to trouble in a relationship.
Yeah.
Arguing about finances, that reached a breaking point, according to Helen, on January 15th. And she said when Casey came home that Monday from his trucking gig, she confronted him about their unpaid bills. And he started yelling at her, saying, you don't do anything at home. I'm working all the time. You do nothing. And this place is filthy. And she said that just set her off. She was like, get out, just leave.
Yeah.
She said she didn't care. She told him, I don't care where you go, just leave. And at this time, he's 28, she's 41, which makes the age gap seem even more significant when he's still in his 20s and now she's in her 40s. But
yeah, it does.
So anyway.
Greg says there's a rule. It's half your age plus 7.
Really?
By rule, I mean like accepted, not law.
Unwritten.
Unwritten rule. Yes.
Good to know. So anyway, according to Helen, they get in this fight. She tells him to leave. He left. And she tells the cops he left. And I am not worried. I know he'll be back, but he left. They believe her. She's super believable. They're like, okay, this makes sense. The two of them got into a fight. We're going to be on our way.
Yeah.
They're getting ready to leave her house. And that's when they get a call from Palo Pinto County, which is a neighboring county. A body had been found on Possum Kingdom Lake.
Possum
Dun,
Kingdom,
dun,
the
dun.
toadies.
The toadies. I love the toadies. Did you ever see them in concert?
Many times. Trees. Do you remember Trees in Dallas?
Yes. Oh my God. Wait, was that in Deep Ellum?
I think so. There was trees that were growing through the club. Yeah.
Yeah, I've been to that club. I saw them in Fort Worth, and for the life of me, I can't remember what the name of the club was, but it was awesome. It was a great show. Fast forward to many years later, and I saw them in Colorado Springs at a club called The Black Sheep, which kind of reminds me of Numbers, that type of setup.
I haven't been to the Black Sheep. Is it still there?
Yeah, it's still here. It's just kind of an institution in Springs. A lot of bands pass through here.
Okay.
So Possum Kingdom Lake. This is a man-made reservoir about an hour and a half or an hour west of Fort Worth. It's 53 miles south of Newcastle. Of course, it's loaded with possums or opossums.
People call them opossums. I call them possums.
I call them possums. So hundreds of thousands of possums and deer. It's rugged out there, but it's a popular spot for fishing and boating and swimming and hunting. Anyway, there are landowners out there, of course, that have property that butts up to the lake. Lots of trouble with poachers and trespassers on their property. So on January 21st, 96, this landowner saw tire tracks on his property, and they were headed towards the lakeshore. So he follows the tire tracks thinking, okay, poachers have been out here. And he goes down to the lakeshore. And as he neared the lakeshore, he sees what he thinks is a deer carcass, a butchered deer carcass. And he's like, somebody came out here, shot a deer and butchered the deer right here on my property. But as he got closer, he realized that is not a deer. It was the torso of a very large male.
Do you know how large he was?
He was 300 pounds.
Oh my God, that's big.
Yeah, so he's a big dude. He was a big dude. What was unusual about this torso was the fact that there was no head attached to the torso.
Just a torso. That's what's unusual.
There were no legs. There were no hands. So he, I'm going to guess, probably skedaddled pretty quick out of there and went back to his house, called the sheriff's department. Palo Pinto County Sheriff sent their deputies out to the property. And they were now tasked with identifying who this is, which is tough when you don't have dental records or fingerprints. So one thing they could tell about this body was it was a large man, a large Caucasian man. So that kind of clued them into Young County because Casey's description was of a 300-pound Caucasian man. So they're thinking, okay, this might be the guy out of Young County. Things they noticed were that the body had not been killed there at the lakeshore. There was not enough blood to indicate that. The tire tracks, they could tell, were from a truck, and there were bits of manure and hay attached to the torso and in and around the torso. And the hay and the manure had red flecks of paint in it. So they could tell, okay, the bed of whatever was pulling him, maybe a horse trailer, is red. It was painted red. That's their conclusion. So that's what they've got to go on. No fingerprints or dental records, which today, that's fine. You're just going to do DNA testing. Well, back then, DNA was in its infancy, but we had it. It was brand new, though. It was 96. So they took a sample from the torso and they got samples from his family, his mom and his dad, and sent them off for testing. But it's not in 96. That's not an immediate thing. It's going to take weeks. So they send that off for testing and continue their investigation. So they continue investigating the lake area. They're looking for the rest of his body, right? They're also wondering, hey, what could this have been? This could have been a drug deal, maybe some sort of cartel, because this is pretty gruesome, or maybe we have a serial killer. They're not too sure. So they're looking around the lake for body parts, but also potentially other victims. And while this is happening, the torso is now going through an autopsy. They're performing an autopsy. They discover that whoever dismembered him knew what they were doing. Kind of makes me nauseous to talk about it.
I know. I'm like, I've heard the word torso more than I wanted to this morning.
But if we were left to our own devices, we didn't have grocery stores or butcher shops, I swear I'd be a vegetarian.
Starve.
Yeah. Or starve.
Yeah.
Or eat the wrong berries and die.
Yeah.
That's most likely what would happen. Wouldn't last long because, oh my God, I could not debone a fish or anything like that. They said that whoever dismembered this body was very skilled at butchering animals or humans, but most likely animals because the limbs were severed cleanly at the joints.
Oh.
Yeah. And then the toxicology report also indicated that morphine was in their torso system and a lot of it. It was 23 times as much as what would have been considered a lethal dose of morphine.
Wow.
So this dude had a lot of morphine in him, enough to kill him. So they weren't too sure what the cause of death was. Was it morphine? Was his throat cut? Who knows? But they know there are a couple of different ways he could have died. They were focused on Helen, though. Even though they talked to her and believed her at first, they kind of clued in on her because of the morphine. That's kind of why they focused on her, because she had been trained to administer morphine to her dead husband, Harry.
Yeah.
We know she was believable, but we're going to go back to her. So investigators went back to Helen's house. They searched the barns on the property and noticed that the trailer, the floor of the horse trailer, was red. So that's a red flag.
Literally.
They also discovered prickly pears stuck to the tires of the trailer. And the body, the torso, had been found down on Possum Kingdom Lake shore in a prickly pear patch.
Ah, there you go. Tying it together.
So another red flag. Okay. And then another red flag putting the trailer at the dump site was they also got a closer look at the trailer, like the planks in the trailer. They noticed what looked like blood. Officers took a couple of planks out of the horse trailer to test it for DNA. Helen said, yeah, I had been using the trailer recently. She admitted she had hosed the trailer floorboards off because she had a pig that had been attacked by one of her dogs in the back of the trailer. She either took it to the vet or she slaughtered it, something. But anyway, blood from a pig was in the horse trailer. That was her explanation. And law enforcement was not believing her. When they got the DNA results from the trailer, it was confirmed to be Casey's blood.
Yeah.
So on March 19th, 10 days after Casey's closed casket funeral, thank God.
Could you imagine? Yeah.
No. Helen was arrested.
Did they find other body parts?
So they had to keep searching.
Right.
Okay, Helen said she did not do this. I did not do this. After she was arrested and charged with his murder, they got a warrant to search the inside of the house. And in that investigation, they discovered morphine. On March 31st, here goes the chronological order, while checking a bridge not far from Helen and Casey's house, they found a black bag that contained Casey's head.
Ooh.
Yeah, this was in an area called Elliottville. And in May of 96, they discovered his right leg in Caddo County, which is also an adjacent county, Caddo. And digging into their finances, investigators discovered that Helen had taken out a $150,000 life insurance policy on Casey a few weeks prior to his disappearance.
It's always the life insurance.
Life insurance, it was the money. And they were having financial problems. So this totally makes sense. But nonetheless, it's horrible. Come on, people. So there was an awful lot of physical and circumstantial evidence leading up to Helen. The community is really against Helen. They're just like, you know what? They're hearing all the rumors as to how he may have died. They're thinking she needs the lethal injection, just like she gave to Casey. She needs the death penalty.
Yeah.
So law enforcement prosecutors are expecting a court battle on this because, like I said, there was physical evidence, but there was a whole lot of circumstantial evidence. And a skilled defense attorney would have had a pretty good time with this trial. But Helen contacted the prosecution in August of 1996 and, surprise, surprise, said, Helen is willing to take a plea offer. She's willing to plead guilty on this. Even though she claimed her innocence, she felt like with the death penalty looming over her head and the fact that she didn't think she could get a fair trial in this area, she would take the offer, pleading guilty with death penalty off the table. So life in prison.
So she didn't want to take that chance that they could.
She didn't want to take the chance of getting the death penalty.
Yeah.
The prosecution, again, offered to take capital punishment off the table as part of the plea offer, but they also said, you have to tell us what happened. That's part of the plea agreement. So she did. So at the end of August, she sat down with prosecutors and law enforcement, and she said, Casey had a cold And this is how it's kind of started. And she slowly started administering morphine to him over several days. On January 16th, she said he laid unconscious one morning. So she got up, took the kids to school, and by the time she got home, according to Helen, Casey was dead from a morphine overdose.
Okay.
So she said she got a tarp from her barn, laid it next to the bed, rolled him off the bed onto the tarp. She got a rope, tied it to the tarp, unhitched her truck from the horse trailer, tied the rope to the truck hitch. But before she unhooked the horse trailer, she'd backed the horse trailer up to the back door. So the trailer's sitting there at the back door. She gets the rope, attaches it to the tarp and to the truck hitch, and pulls the body on the tarp through the house to the backyard onto the trailer.
Oh my God.
Yeah, because he was so big.
Right. I was like, how big was she? She wasn't very big, was she?
She wasn't very big. Yeah, and pictures of her indicate she was a slender woman. And I have no idea how tall she was, but she didn't have a lot of muscle. So dragged his body out of the house onto the horse trailer, and then she used a bow saw to dismember him, which is so disgusting. I've got a bow saw in the garage. Ew. Ew. She cut his body into 8 separate pieces. And she drove the trailer down to the Possum Lake, and that's where she dumped his torso. And then she stopped on the way back to dispose of the other body parts, but in different locations.
She just went about town spreading him out.
Yeah, but I mean, miles and miles. She was driving all over the
Counties.
place. Yeah, different counties. According to Helen, she was on Percodan and drinking vodka at the time. So she was super out of it. And she can't remember where she buried or dropped all the body parts. According to my research, they only found a leg and a head, and the rest of him is still missing.
Oh, wow.
Ew. Yeah. So she also said that the next day after this, I know, and this is all while the kids are at school. So the next day she sobered up and she slaughtered a pig in the trailer in an effort to cover up the blood. But that did not mask Casey's blood being in the trailer. Okay, so August 30th, she formally pled guilty and was sentenced to life in prison with the opportunity for parole. In Helen's hometown of Newcastle, people were very happy she was going away for life. She wasn't getting the death penalty, but at least she was going away, and that was good. 2016, so she's been in prison for 20 years. She changed her tune. She told law enforcement that Casey wasn't the gentle giant that people believed him to be. She said he was physically and mentally abusive during their 5-year relationship. Despite the abuse, she claimed she had nothing to do with killing or dismembering him.
Oh.
She said it was her teenage son. So she had 2 kids from her first couple of marriages, 2 kids with Terry. So the 2 older kids were a teenage boy and a teenage girl. And she said that the teenage boy did it. She said Casey had sexually abused the teenage boy, and that's why he did it.
What?
I know. And she said she pled guilty and created this story to protect her son. But you got to wonder why 20 years later.
Yeah, why say that 20 years later? Like, did he stop visiting her so she's mad?
Maybe she said, I don't want to live in fear anymore. I want to tell the truth. But the prosecution, law enforcement, they did not believe her. So she remained in prison. Nothing came of this changed story. So 10 years later, now it's April of 2026, she gets her first parole hearing. So for the past 30 years, she's been serving her sentence at the Murray unit in Gatesville, Texas, which is west of Waco. And she became eligible for parole, and April 7th of 26 was her hearing. And the Texas Department of Criminal Justice Board of Pardons and Paroles officially denied her release on April 14th after her parole hearing. According to Thomas Wallner of TexasLocalMedia.com, the Texas Department of Criminal Justice said the record indicated the instant offense has elements of brutality, violence, assaultive behavior, or conscious selection of victims' vulnerability, indicating a conscious disregard for the lives, safety, or property of others such that the offender poses a continuing threat to public safety, close quote. So her parole was denied and she's now eligible again in April of 2031.
Wow.
5 years. Yeah.
5 years. From what I understand, life in prison was automatic 30 years, right? The way Texas law worked back then for parole.
So in 1996, maybe so. If you were sentenced to life in prison, you automatically got a parole hearing 30 years later. Is that what you're saying?
So the way Texas law worked was life in prison is an automatic 30-year sentence. I think it's been changed since the 90s. But what I didn't know was in the UK, life without parole is actually just 25 years. They get out after 25 years. Because I was wondering, like, if Andrew Tate gets convicted, he got recently arrested.
Well, I doubt he would get life. I mean, he didn't murder anyone. He was disgusting, but he didn't murder anyone.
Can you get life in prison for being disgusting?
For being disgusting? I don't know. But, it's similar in the UK, Australia, and Canada.
Yeah.
Even if you get life, it's not necessarily life. It's a period of time. U.S., our prison system is we're just clogged with so many prisoners.
It's bad.
It's really bad.
And we don't have any rehabilitation programs that are really, we probably have some, but we don't have good ones that people know about. Like in the UK, they have really strong rehabilitation programs. And that's what we need to do.
We do. We need that. Someone needs to reform the prison system in the U.S.
Yes, for sure.
This is a call out to a reformer. So that's the story of Helen Hardin Moore.
Yes, with the little distraction at the end on the prison systems. But yeah, that is crazy. So I'm going to get into the astrology, but I want to go back to some of like how she could do this, Okay, so jumping into astrology, Helen Hardin Moore's chart is, and I know what you're going to say, it's absolutely saturated with Scorpio.
No offense, Scorpios.
My dad's a Scorpio. He's awesome. Her sun, Mercury, and Venus were all in Scorpio when she was born, creating a personality signature that astrologers associate with intensity, secrecy, and emotional extremes. While plenty of people have a single Scorpio placement, having 3 personal planets clustered there is much less common. Scorpio suns are often described as private, determined, and fiercely protective. Mercury in Scorpio adds a probing, investigative mind that likes to dig beneath the surface and uncover hidden truths. Venus in Scorpio brings all or nothing approach to relationships and emotions with feelings that tend to run deep and linger long after everyone else has moved on. People with heavy Scorpio placements are often said to keep their true motivations hidden, revealing only what they want others to see. Trust, loyalty, and betrayal tend to carry enormous weight for them. And what makes this concentration especially interesting in Helen's case is the nature of the crime itself. Moore was accused of murdering her live-in boyfriend by administering a lethal dose of morphine, allegedly motivated by life insurance proceeds. And astrologers often associate Scorpio with themes of power, secrecy, shared finances, and life or death transformations. Scorpio traditionally rules inheritances, insurance, and money shared between partners. And it's hard to ignore how strongly those classic Scorpio themes echo throughout the allegations of this case.
Brian and I just got new life insurance policies. I'm going to have you do his chart for me.
If he has Scorpio in there, just like lower the policy amount. We know he wouldn't do anything. Scorpio is also associated with emotional undercurrents, hidden motives, and the complicated dynamics that can arise when love, trust, and financial interests become intertwined. Adding another layer, Helen's Venus was also in retrograde at her birth. Venus retrograde is sometimes linked to complicated relationships, unresolved emotional wounds, and a tendency to internalize feelings rather than express them openly. And some astrologers believe that this placement can intensify emotions, making people more likely to revisit old hurts and grudges long after others have moved on. The biggest mystery in Helen's birth chart, though, is her moon sign. We know she was born on November 15th, 1954, but because we do not have an exact birth time, her moon is harder to pin down. And according to my very used book, Secrets from a Stargazer's Notebook, that has tons of history of where the moon was, the moon entered Leo at 1303 military time on November 15th, 1954. Before that, it was void, of course.
Oh, void, of course.
Void, of course.
We've talked about this before.
Yes. And so if Helen was born before 103, she would have the void, of course, moon. And in astrology, a void moon is thought to represent someone who feels disconnected from the usual flow of events, someone who struggles to gain closure, or someone who operates outside conventional expectations. And some astrologers even associate it with situations that spiral in unexpected directions or leave lingering questions behind. If she was born after 1:03 p.m., she would have a Leo moon. And Leo moons are often described as proud, dramatic, and deeply concerned with recognition and image, and they crave significance and can feel wounded when they believe they have been overlooked or disrespected. They are also known for their fierce loyalty to the people they love and their desire to leave a lasting impression. And now I find myself gravitating towards the Leo moon interpretation, given like the highly public nature of which she came out and confessed, and it sort of became part of her identity. But void, of course, is something like the ability to be able to dismember him that had to take so much time.
And to do it while the kids are at school.
I know.
So she must have done it with some speed because you don't have all day. The kids are coming home eventually. Ew.
So I don't know. Leo or void, of course. You're void, of course. You've told me you couldn't butcher anything,
Ugh.
so
Right?
no.
Yeah, and when we go fishing, very rarely, but if I do go fishing, it's just catch and release. And I could never catch a fish and slaughter it.
I don't even go fishing anymore because the last time I caught a fish, when I pulled it out, the hook was through its eye, and I'm like, no.
Oh,
And then we threw it back. I'm
no.
like, I threw a one-eyed fish back.
Oh,
God,
no.
I can't do that. Can't do that anymore. I can eat fish as long as someone else has,
Someone else they have to cook it and clean it and
all the
debone
things.
it. All
the things.
We went to San Francisco for our anniversary a couple of years ago, and I ordered fish at the wharf, and they brought it out. It was looking at me. It's still its
Oh my
head.
God.
I know. I'm like, Brian, I can't eat this. This is so gross. Oh my God. I did not eat it.
You did not eat the fish?
I couldn't eat it. Oh, just gross. Anyway, that was fun.
That was fun. And it was such crazy story. Unbelievable almost.
It is unbelievable.
How could she do that?
I don't know. And, we're always talking about Florida. Florida's got a lot of crime, but Texas rivals Florida. Texas really does.
I feel like, they always say it's bigger in Texas. Yeah, I think the crimes are bigger in Texas. Like they go above and beyond. Oh, one of the things I wanted to say, though, so obviously when Terry Moore, right, was passing, she was hoarding that morphine.
She must have been. Otherwise, where would she have gotten it?
I know for a fact, unfortunately, how. I'm not going to share, but it's like I know now when people go on home hospice, they check the morphine out. And then when that person passes, on hospice, they want that morphine back.
Yes.
It's like you are not getting that morphine.
Yeah, I know too, because of my dad's passing. Yeah, they came and got the medication and they throw it into a bag with cat litter in it.
Yeah, with cat litter.
Yeah, so that people who are dumpster diving are not getting the medication.
Okay, so they pour it out in cat litter.
Yeah, and then the pills, I'm not sure. I think they just take the pills back, but liquid they poured into cat litter. Yeah, they came to the house at 1:00 in the morning to get the medication. They were there before the coroner was there to retrieve the body.
But I wonder if like cases like this, where it's a morphine overdose, like they're like, we're going to change these laws. We're going to come pick up that morphine.
Yes. So maybe this prompted a change in the law. Yeah, I could see that. Yep.
Okay. Well, I hope you enjoy your Sunday. Bye.
Bye.
The Femme Fatal, created and hosted by Stacey Dotson, produced by Mark Williams. Music by Marcia Yingling, Chad Shank, and Greg Loicano.